Well, yes, economic war is the biggest concern for leaders and risk experts. Nearly a fifth of respondents in a survey by the World Economic Forum said geo-economic confrontation was the biggest threat to the world, beating other issues like state-based armed conflict, climate change and disinformation. Now, it says the world is in an age of competition marked by fragmentation and confrontation. The report focuses on three timeframes: right now, short to medium term, and a longer 10-year perspective. Now, both the short and long-term outlooks predict turbulent to stormy times. Saadia Zahidi is Senior Managing Director of the World Economic Forum.
I think if there is to be one key takeaway from the report, it's that we are entering an age of competition, and this new competitive order is then shaping current global risks, but it is also shaping and to some extent hindering our ability to actually cope with them. That's really the key takeaway. If we take a look at the number one risk, both for 2026 and 2 years out, it's geoeconomic confrontation. But then if we look at the risks 10 years out, it's really the climate and environment-related risks. All of these things require global cooperation, and that's where we're seeing a big backsliding in this new age of competition.
What is most likely to trigger a global crisis in 2026 and why?
So the number one concern for the participants of the survey in 2026, geoeconomic confrontation, that's about 18% of people. And then the number two risk is all about state-led armed conflict, and that's at 14%. So roughly 1/3 of all of the 1,300 leaders and experts that responded to the survey are deeply concerned about geopolitical and geoeconomic developments.
Everyone's talking about AI as a way to future-proof their businesses and stoke economic growth. But anxiety around the adverse outcomes of AI have soared, haven't they? What are the implications then for labour markets, societies and security?
You're absolutely right. The jump here is very significant. So in the 2-year time frame, AI, or the adverse effects of AI, are down at number 30, but then when you look 10 years out, that jumps up to number 5, so a jump of 25 ranks. And it's because in the short term, most people are seeing largely the benefits of artificial intelligence. But in the longer term, there's three big concerns: what AI will do to labor markets, 2, what it's going to do to our societies and in particular to mental health, and then third, what it's going to mean to integrate AI into warfare, especially in an age with heightened competition between big powers. Those are really the things that are driving the AI anxiety. And then coupled with these two things, the geoeconomic confrontation and AI, are really the rising concerns around economic risks. And again, that's not surprising. There's a piece there about inflation, asset bubbles, and debt, and all of those are rising in the rankings.
So if we are talking about a new competitive order taking shape, who's going to lead that charge? The respondents to this survey, over 60% of them believe that we are now squarely heading towards a multipolar order, where various large countries, economies, powers will be competing for strategic importance, for resources, etc. There's a much smaller subset that believe that we would head towards a return to the more unipolar multilateral system that we've had in the past. So overall, we are starting to see this shift away from what have traditionally been the ways in which people have been able to cooperate. Now, that is not to say that any of this is a foregone conclusion, and I think that's a really important message around the risks report. None of this is set in stone. All of this is in the hands of leaders, whether they choose to cooperate and invest in resilience or whether they do not. So that's really what we'll be focused on next week in Davos, bringing leaders together under this overall theme of a spirit of dialogue and trying to reestablish relationships, cooperation, and trust. That's the fundamental.